Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, it is my custom to welcome my guests and to express my thankfulness of a couple of things that I deem very expensive, that I know they are here to spend some of that with us. And so I want to thank them for it. Maribeth, thank you for coming and sharing that time. Time is one of the most precious commodity given to mankind while we are here on this planet called Earth, and we all have the same amount of it. So one cannot say I have more than the other. We have 24 hours a day. What we do with it is all up to you and I. And Maribeth is here to spend some of that quality stuff with us, and I want to thank her for it. The other is her journey. Her journey housed who she was and allow us to see who she is today. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing both of those with us. And welcome to Threads of Enlightenment. I want you to encourage us, teach us so that we can grow and become better students while we're here on this earth. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure. Hi, I'm Maribeth Decker. I am an intuitive animal communicator, which means I connect with animals through my heart and through my head, telepathy. I do medical intuition and I do energy healing. And this is my sidekick, Bunny. She ran into the room. She actually skipped into the room to say, "No, I want to spend some time with Ken." And so
Yeah.
she's my little girl. Um, I feel like I'm a troubleshooter and also like a family counselor sometimes because I work with people, I like to say, who love their animals as much as or more than some of the humans in their lives. And anybody who's had a close relationship with their animal know that there's probably fewer grudges held over time with our animals, and there's a lot more natural, with many of them, a lot more natural love that comes from them, a
Yeah.
lot more forgiveness, and so the relationship is I don't know, sometimes it feels much closer. We don't have the barriers down that we have had with our human people that we love. And given that, so people come to me because there's an issue with their animal generally. I
Mhm.
don't just say, let me tell you what your animal is thinking is like a party trick. Some people call it
Yeah.
that. It's like, what? Why are they doing this? Um, I got a rescue animal. I adopted this animal, and there's so many things going on, and I don't understand how to remind her or him that you won the jackpot. It's all good. We nothing but love, or physically. How are they feeling? What's going on?
Yeah.
And so we do communication, and then we do some healing around it. Sometimes for always for the animal, sometimes the person gets involved too, so that they can have a better relationship and enjoy each other, which is what we're designed to do, I think, is to actually start to enjoy life and see the good in each other. So whether it's
I,
human or other species.
I agree with you 100%. I think as we were talking on the onset, that people are so busy living that they are forgetting are living life. They're forgetting how to enjoy life. And those that have animals and animal lovers, um, I think the reason why some people will love their animals more is because you don't have to pretend when you're with your animals. Some people are living a life of pretending, and when you're with your animal, whatever that animal is, you are able to be. And so they are in that state of always being present, and that's how we're called to live, is to be present. And I've told people before, if you are depressed, you're in the past. If you're anxious, you're in the future. But when you're in your present, you are creating your future. You need to just understand that principle and then move forward from there. So here you are. Talk to us about your childhood, because I think many of us when we are the family unit is the first place by which we reside once we come here on this planet, and a lot of information is exchanged at that time in our lives as young people between the animals as well as our families and that are in our space. So talk to us about your family and how was that?
Well, I think how do I say? I think I was a typical kid. Who probably grew up in the '60s, a child in the '60s, not an adult. But I was the kid in this culture where I grew up in was the kid where the mom just naturally said to the child, "You want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about." And so,
That's a
and
familiar
it,
motto. I know. It's a familiar
oh my
motto.
goodness. And my mom is not a I'm not saying I had terrible parents. Where did we learn it? They learned it from their parents. But it was a very strict upbringing, my way or the highway.
Hmm.
I think we each look at that if we've lived with it and we decide how we're going to deal with it. My sense of dealing was to go inward and to be very
Yeah.
quiet and not to be the object of anger, not to be the one in
Hmm.
trouble as much as I could be. Um, the other thing that I liked that actually was a good thing is I remember my dad telling us kids to get outside and get the stink blown off you. So, and we were supposed to be outside until the street lights came on, and there was a lot of time spent. We did live in a fancy neighborhood, but there were a little bit of woods, and there was a little stream by the railroad
Yeah.
tracks, and a lot of times in the water and the grass, and looking under. I'm picking up a stone now, looking to see what's underneath it in the little stream, um, and we had cats, and and they were part of the family. And
Hmm.
I guess that's a short version of like the hard stuff and the good stuff, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
That's a
And
good version of it. There's nothing wrong with that.
no, and so I I struggled to, as you say, be in the now, to be myself, to feel
Yeah.
that I could fit in by expressing who I was. Um,
Yeah.
just have opinions and to have opinions that were probably a little strange for
Yeah.
my background, and it didn't you didn't get a lot of support on that. So I ended up turning quiet. Um,
Did that translate, Maribeth? Did that translate to your school when you started going to school and you're exposed to more people outside of the family? Did that quietness come with you, or were you able to express yourself when you were with those new folks, if you will?
it actually got even, I felt like I got more shut down. There was more structure in school. We had everybody's got a story, right? But my
Yeah.
brother was born with Down syndrome, and
Mm.
there was, people carried a sense that there might be something wrong with you if you had somebody
Yeah.
who was in that nature. And my mom was the head of the household. She's one who kept us together, and in that picture, the men were supposed to be the heads of the households, and so I felt more social stuff going on as I
Hmm.
came into the schools and met other families and kids from other families. It No, it didn't help.
Wow. So here you are, you're moving through and you are, I guess, you're reserved in your approach to life at this moment in your existence and your growth. And you're moving through life. You're in high school reserve as you are moving in your living, you're growing up, as they say, and you are now looking at you're finishing up school, still a little shy girl, still hiding, and you're thinking of maybe going to college. What was going on in your mind at that place when you're looking at moving forward in your life, but you are this shy, introverted kind of person, not um, not having a voice, if you will, at this time of your life?
Um, so I'm feeling very called to tell you, I did have a really cool spiritual experience when I was in middle school. Can I go back there?
Yeah, please, please. That's what we
Yay! I
love
don't.
here.
This doesn't fit anything, but it happened to me. I was I was getting religious teaching in school, and I went out into the woods and I said, God, are you real? Are you really there? I mean, come on. I mean, I'm hearing all this stuff, but tell me. So I had an experience where I'm going to say God creator because it didn't feel like there was a female or maleness to this being. It felt
Mm,
like they withdrew their presence from my existence and the existence in the world, and it felt so empty
mhm.
and so bleak. And then they brought it back in. And at that time, I knew that Creator was everywhere and everything. And it was loving and intelligent and caring. And I'm like, holy cow.
Wow.
But I couldn't tell anybody. It's like, no, who's going to, a girl from Depew, New York, outside of Buffalo? Who am I going to tell that I just had this cool experience? So I had that knowledge now that Creator was real and loved us. I didn't know
Yeah.
what to do with it, but that was good stuff. Okay, so I wanted to say that that was an awesome thing that happened to me. And I
How
wonder how many
old were
years.
you when
Probably
that
about
happened?
13, just somewhere getting into puberty. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And the impression, because that's a profound experience to have. And talk to me as to the imprint that it made on you. You made a statement that you knew that that the Creator was here, that we were taken care of. What did it do to you as an individual who is still withdrawn within herself, but with this knowledge, knowing that you can't really talk? What did it do to you, Maribeth? How did it make you feel when you got that?
It was there's like a foundation laid, and
Yeah,
I had. It's not like I wish I could say I just went into sainthood or some whatever words you want to use, but not that. But there was a
yeah.
foundation of knowing we were created in love, and love surrounds everything. Uh, and um, and I think well now we're talking, Ken. It may have opened me up to other things. Maybe that's where the opening to how do we communicate with our animals, which came much later. But I believe that
Yeah.
that did set the foundation or the possibility for me.
And I think an experience like that would open you up to many things, especially into the spiritual realm. And because of our I guess maybe stubbornness or even lack of understanding. It takes a tremendous amount of time, which is not a bad thing because we have to go through a couple of things so that we can have a full understanding of an appreciation of the knowledge that we would obtain, and we would not become um, brutish, if you will, with that knowledge, that information. We are more able to embrace the knowledge that these things are there and the spiritual realm is there. We are open up to the knowledge of the unknown. So here you are, this 13-year-old girl got blessed with a tremendous opportunity to see um, the world without a creator and the world with one, and to sense that energy of the emptiness versus the love. So you're moving through your life, and you are now, as I say earlier, you're heading into the college age and stuff like that. What did you do with your life at that point, and what was your decision to propel you into the direction you took?
Well, I have to say that the one thing that I found that gave me courage, and luckily, was alcohol. So, uh,
And how old did you start drinking this alcohol to give you
I,
courage?
yeah, somewhere in high school, but
Yeah.
I am now recovered. But at the time, I would go to meetings, but it was somewhere in high school. I feel like I was an instant drunk. It's funny. I don't know if anybody bought instant ramen and you tear the thing off, then it's called instant ramen.
Yeah.
You just add hot water. With me, I think it was just add alcohol, and there she is. There's no graceful decline.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but I still got into college, still did it, but
Mhm.
the alcohol helped my fear to move forward in the world. I don't recommend it.
Which college did you pick, and why did you pick that
Well,
field of study, if you will?
I went in. I went to the University of Buffalo. It was able to go to school from home, and that was really helpful because I was paying for my own. I was paying for college, and
Hmm.
I went into psychology, and I thought I would be pre-med, and I thought, oh, and I think looking back is, I wonder how many of us that pick that want to figure out what's up with ourselves when we pick things like
Yeah.
psychology, and how does the world work and things like that. But um, and I loved it, and I loved that we could take courses on philosophy, the meaning of life, and all. I loved college, but I was
Yeah.
still
So
drinking.
as you you're taking this information in and
Yeah.
studying philosophy and seeing all of the beginnings, if you will, or not even the beginnings, because you had the beginning when you were 13. You were having this conversation, a continued input of the spiritual aspect and the um, psychological aspect of the human spirit. As you're getting that information, you stated that you were drinking and still numbing the senses. How were you managing having those two conflicting things coming at you on a daily basis?
Not well.
Hmm.
Um, I would. I'm going to fast forward and say that I can see creator's guidance in this time. I graduated, um, and then a boyfriend. I'll tell the story the way I like to tell it. He got rid of his other girlfriend by taking her down to the Navy recruiter, and he thought it would work for me too. So he took me to the Navy
Hmm.
recruiter because I didn't see a lot of job possibilities, and I became an officer in the Navy,
Hmm.
still drinking.
Yeah.
And my second duty station in Japan, I went to a place where we did a lot of talking with people about a lot of different interesting things. Race relations in the Navy, and we also talked about alcohol abuse. And here I am
Hmm.
talking about it while I'm drinking. And I had to go to
Yeah.
some AA meetings. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And something got me then.
Yeah.
And I figured out that there was, I guess, a solution. The 12-step program was really helpful for me, and getting in the Navy, getting this particular duty station where I was
Hmm.
forced to sit in on a couple meetings.
Yeah.
I stuck around and I got sober, and stayed sober. So it was. I know you look back and you say, "Wow, that was really fortuitous, wasn't it?"
There is, as I get older, Maribeth, one of the lessons that I'm learning, and I have learned, nothing in life happens by happen chance. There is a plan that many of us are not aware of because of the state that we are in. And so when we look back and we realize, wait a minute, I have been guided all the time, but because of the state that we were in. You were in a state that you would not even knew that you were being guided,
Yeah.
but you were. You just stated by saying, "Wait a minute, I was drinking. I just happened to be in Japan of all places at this class of all places in Japan." You know that type of planning. You and I would never sit down and put it together, but it was already put together for you, and you were just moving into it. So here you are. You're sitting there. You got exposed to the plan
Yeah.
and you began to stay in to gain a way out. As
Okay.
you were dealing with that, because now you have to deal with a lot of things from a 13-year-old. And how old were you at this time when you were in that space, in that class? You
Well,
remember?
I, I will just say that it was probably in my mid 20s.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
So
been a while.
yeah. So yeah. 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 But
Talk to it.
well, I had enough sense. I grew up with people who um, were you would look at them if you knew them long enough and say they boy oh boy they drink too much. You might even call alcoholic. And I hadn't got to
Yeah.
that point where,
Yeah.
but I had done enough things. And life is a good teacher if you're listening. That said that
Yeah.
that's kind of showed me, this path is only going down. There is no
Yeah.
way up in this path that you're on. But then again, I think there's an opening in me to hear what I needed to hear at the time. To say,
Yeah.
you've been given a choice. Do you really want to continue this path? And here is another path for you that is seems it looks like it's worked for a lot of people. It's not dogma. I'm not much a fan of dogma. I'm a fan of
Hmm.
truth and what works.
Yeah.
And it's time to move. It's time to switch what you're doing, Mary Beth. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I yeah, we have to, I call it, Maribeth, we have to, and I use the analogy of this, and sometimes it's a harsh analogy, but it is a true analogy from a story. That sometimes we have to go and sit down with the pigs. The reason why I take the story with the prodigal son, he had to go sit
Yes.
down with the pigs to get the revelation of, wait a minute, the servants are eating better at my father's house. I could go eat some food at my father's house. Imagine this rich kid that was eating pig food, hanging out there, and realize I have a shot at my father's house. Guess what? I'm going to go to my father's house. That decision took courage to get up, to make the steps to begin to move forward. And the decision you made to say, I need to change. And I tell people, again, I pull out from my background as a Christian where Jesus said, those who have ears, let them hear. So he was talking about a different ear than just this natural thing here. So I believe that is the conversation with your inner man, your soul, that you are going to listen now to this information that comes and you're going to say, I need this in my life or I'm not going to make it. And so you made that decision and you began to move forward. At that decision, though, Maribeth, there's a lot of pain that is housed there, right
Oh
there, a
yeah.
lot of dark belief that is tied in there that you have to move and shift. What tools did you bring into your life? I know you mentioned the 12 step is a great example of tools that they give folks to walk through their life. Did you mention to them, because we may have listeners that are not familiar with those tools, talk to them and bring it to their knowledge as to what tools you use to help you get through that dark time.
Yeah. So I'll talk in general because I understand there's
Yeah.
a lot of different programs out that work really well. What this particular set of tools did for me is it brought me in a group of like-minded people who were
Hmm.
also interested in staying sober. And I got a lot of good phrases. Like when you think about maybe you'll just hang out in a bar, see what it's like. I'd hear the voice of one of the guys in AA or the women saying, "If you're not a lion, don't go in the lion's den." Stuff like that. Very,
Yeah.
very down to earth, very helpful. Like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I am not a lion anymore. But we also started on a way to find and maybe reconnect for people like me on how
Yeah.
to connect with a higher, they would say a higher power, because they get
Hmm.
however that is, and just
Yeah.
relying that there's something out there watching out for you. So you got the people, you have somebody that you kind of hook up with to talk to about it, and it's also asked us to go back and look at all the things that we are kind of dragging around with us, the things that we didn't love that we did, and things that happened
Yeah.
to us, and start finding a way to release that. Because
Yeah.
that holds us down as much as the alcohol. You,
Yeah.
you can probably think of people who quit drinking or something else, and there's still a, you know what?
Yeah.
There should be movement beyond that where life changes for the better. And
Yeah, the alcohol is just the symptoms
it,
of a deeper issue. And
it
so
is.
you have to get to the root of the issue in order to prevent the usage of the alcohol. And so, and as you begin to, everyone calls it that onion effect, but I think is as you begin to move away one trauma and you're allowed to see another trauma as you move all these traumas away and you move through um, these emotional energy that are trapped within our being, within our mind and our soul. As we begin to identify them, we can then get them released. We can deal with them and move forward. So here you are. You're standing, you recognize you're not a lion, you are moving through, you're coming out of your situation, and you're moving through life. As you're moving through life, talk to us, and because I tell people life is a beautiful pain, it's full of pain and beauty. So as you're moving through, you recognize all of these things, Maribeth, and you're moving through your life. At what point did you start to look at yourself as one that um, how did you start to hear the language of the animals as you're moving through your life? How did you start to
Okay.
recognize it? What was the incident that, or the several incidents that led up to it, and you recognize there's another voice that I'm hearing some things? Um, how did that
That's,
look like, and how did
yeah.
you come to
So
it?
Um, I had retired from the Navy, still
Mm-hmm.
raising two little kids. So I went into an association and worked there. And at the end of the time in my association work, I started getting into energy healing and massage. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that allows a different part of our, I'm going to say the brain, sort of wakes up.
Yeah.
There's an intuitive side to the brain and the mind and the soul, which is, I think that is the soul. It's very
Yeah.
intuitive. Is intuition because it's connection to source.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. But in that time, somewhere along the way there, my dog started connecting and communicating with me, and I'm like, "What the heck? What is this?" My my dog Tibor, excuse me, Timmy, uh, he had passed, and he popped in as a like he was physically there. I could see him, and
Mm-hmm.
as I was making dinner, and I've told this so many times, but I love it. I saw him out of the corner of my eye, turned my head, and said, "Timmy!" He had one ear up and one ear down, with a big grin on his
Mm-hmm.
face, and then he was gone. And at that point, I knew animals survive death with a
Yeah.
personality. They love us, and he took the time to come back and say, "Mom, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I love you." And a couple other things where lovely things like that happened. I finally, I had my dog Mitsubishi, a Siberian Husky, swore at me, and I'm like, well, that's pretty funny. Um, so he was he had watched me do energy healing on
Yeah.
his little companion. Her name was Eddie, and she passed away. And when I tried to
Mm.
do some healing on him afterwards, he looked at me and he said, "Don't try that. You know what? On me, it killed Eddie." And that's what I heard. I'm
Wow.
like, wow, Navy doesn't never leaves you. And he jumped out the couch. And after I got better at communicating, I explained that even if she left her body, she was in a better place, and he let me do it again.
Hmm.
So then I got Tibor, and he had some visions from him that came, and I said, I need to do this on purpose, and I started taking courses. Now I don't think the time is perfect in this, but I really saw that this was what I wanted to do, to
Yeah.
do animal communication and healing. So, and it was my dogs that really pushed me into it. It was very clear.
Wow. That's a great story. That it was your dogs that moved you forward, and you were sensitive enough to get the message, if you will, because I think many of us are so busy in the busyness of living life, and that we forget that sometimes life and nature speaks quietly. We're waiting for the big storm and the big thunder and stuff like that. And nature has a way of speaking quietly until we don't pay attention. And then when it becomes loud, that's when it's trouble. Because we, so
Yeah.
I tell everyone, and I think, Maribeth, I think the key is this: living present. I absolutely believe that is the key, because when one is present, that means that your senses are at its highest level of expectation. You're in a space of always expecting things. Your energy is alert. You are sensitive to energetic fields. You're sensitive to those type move. But the minute we come out of that present living, and we head back into our memories, we begin to get depressed because, of course, we judgmental back there. And then when we jump forward in the future, we're thinking, oh, I can't get there. I don't know. How am I going to get there? And then we are anxious. And we find ourselves bringing in emotional energies that will get us sick and cause us to develop diseases and die, So I tell people live present, and I do believe that's the key. So here you are, as the dogs, made you aware of your gift and you began to study it. Talk to us, because this field of study, not many people at the time that you were coming around with this was out there. How did you come about it, and how did you begin to feel when you were studying? Because this is something different, and you're hearing all kinds of people probably telling you how nutty you are and all those other things that are around you. So how did you manage your life at that time?
I I was really in a transition. I was studying, I was practicing, if you get in a good class, then you're practicing with each other's animals. And
Hmm.
but still working full time at the day job, doing
Yeah.
massage and energy healing. Well, it was a lot. Uh, but what kept me going, I think, is that when I started working with people and their animals together,
Yeah.
the person's heart is so open. And talk about being in the present. Now, I
Hmm.
know they have their fears and their worries and all that emotional stuff, but their hearts are so open through their love for their animal. And it's a joy to
Yeah.
work with people
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this place. Um, and so it was like a way to deal with human beings or be with human beings in a loving and easy loving environment. Um, Although we talk with tough times, I'm going there. So I finally realized I wanted to focus on animals. And I also noticed that I wanted to tell people that we could all, like you and I were talking before, we're all wired for this. It is
Yeah.
not a special gift. It is being present, paying attention,
Mhm.
and desiring it, because I believe the brain and the mind and the soul are all ready to connect and communicate. And
I agree.
thank you. And so I'd love more people to learn how to connect with their animals and then connect with wildlife. And so, so I'm seeing the family stuff, but also the possibilities of having more people connected to other species in the world, and how nice that would be. How that might shift. Maybe it would
Yeah,
even
I
make
think.
us nicer to each other. I don't know.
Oh, I believe so. I think if I think because we don't respect ourselves, that we are damaging the earth as we do any animal life. Because when one begins to see, I always tell people this, that we are an endangered species. And walk with me for a minute. We are an endangered species, being that my personality, my being, I am the only one. My fingerprint is different from every single person on this in this universe, in this dimension at this time. When I leave, even if there's a look-alike that looks exactly like me, that person is different by their fingerprints, by their voice, by their face recognition. There's something off there, their eye, everything. And their industries, we know that industries are making billions of dollars on the uniqueness of us. You know, this is how we separate. This is how the police department tells who did what. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So because we are an endangered species, and I need to be respectful of me because I am so precious, that when we look at anything else that has life, Maribeth, we ought to see them as such, including the person that is in front of me that has a different opinion than me, the person that is next to me who has a different skin color than me. The choice of our house was not made by us. We just happen to be in it and we have to exist. So I don't mind my color. It shouldn't be a source for someone to be abusive to each other. We shouldn't. And so when we look at the animals and all the other things, we also have to realize that they are endangered species. How many of these animals that we have wasted and killed and murdered that were on this planet that no longer exist because we don't understand the uniqueness of all of us. And because we are not understanding, we brutalize it and we bring it to a place of extinction. And we have that discussion happening with man that we are so crazy that we can bring the species to this to extinction by the bombs and all the things we've created. So we have to have this conversation at some point in time that we ought to begin to respect and love each other. So here you are, Mirabet, you decided you're studying, you're doing all of these things. You are now focused, you have found your purpose, and you are becoming purposeful, as they say. As you are now stepping out of quote unquote just dealing with the students, when you start dealing with your clients, how is that jump from student to client? How did you have that imposter syndrome where you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? All of that. Walk with us a little through that process.
Boy, you know it. And oh, thank you for talking about all the that we're all an endangered species. If we don't value ourselves and others, thank you for that. I almost teared up there. So, but let me go forward. I just wanted to
Yeah.
acknowledge I love that. Um, when I started dealing with the imposter syndrome, um, I think I'm finally past it. I'm like, wow, but I think I'm finally past it. Uh, it was very difficult. Let's see, how do I say this? It is very helpful to hear positive feedback from people that
Yeah,
something I provided was good. It boosts me, and then but there's like a little um, there's the shadow side of it is you cannot start to depend on people's love and affection
yes,
and telling you what a great person you are.
yeah,
That cannot be the source of your belief. You have to. That was my truth. I got to go deeper
yeah,
and find that there's a connection to source who's providing information uh, and affirmation from I'm going to say sacred divine beings who
yeah,
were in my on my team who are helping me out. I I don't want to get my ego hooked into what I do is good or bad depending on how people react to me because
yeah.
that's a hard place to be and it doesn't serve me. Uh, so I have created based on some training I've done with a wonderful medical intuitive, Tina Zion, to invite a team of sacred divine beings who work with me, uh,
Hmm.
and they provide the information. They help me communicate in a compassionate way. They help me see, know, and even help me say, okay, so what should we do for this particular animal and this particular family? And in that place, I started to relax into the knowledge that I'm not doing this alone. And I've picked some incredibly powerful beings to assist me who want to.
Hmm.
And that has relaxed the imposter syndrome. And I still enjoy hearing when people are delighted with what I do.
I think
Okay,
that's
I don't think
normal.
that's ever going to go away.
No, I think that's normal. It is, as you stated before, it could be, if you're focusing on it alone, it could be the seductive part of it that will take you down the road. And that is the beauty about the journey that one goes on. You have to be aware of the seduction that the ego is still there. And if you allow it, even in your spirituality, if you will, your ego will thrive and you will become something that you will not believe. And people will look at you and say, "Are you kidding me?" So even the ego is present within your personal growth and your spiritualism and your other isms that you have to learn how to not give it the permission that it desires from you. And that dance has to be walked daily. It is not something that you can overcome just one time and just walk on and fly on cloud. Is something you have to sit in humbleness daily. And if you sit there in humbleness daily, you will be able to walk it where you would not allow that for your ego to be seduced into becoming your God before you even know it, you know? So it's a really interesting walk, but it's all the days of our life, Maribeth, that we have to walk this walk. And that's why we need to stay humble or the ego will jump up ASAP.
Yes, thank you for that. It does feel seductive. It does feel like seduction. Um,
Yeah,
and
it, that it gives you that high, just like anything else, you know.
yeah,
Um, and everyone loves it, but in this, when one is humble, you will know how to receive that and not allow it to become seduction And that's the walk that we walk. And how do you do that? A servant life. And when one has the revelation of a servant, trust me, that ego will take a backseat to your living. So here you are enjoying this life, and I tell people this is the ultimate prize that we get to experience, to be a servant to others and to help them to come into a space that they have never been before. So talk to us, give us an example, if you will, Maribeth, of a situation that you remember where someone was and their animal, they were in distress, and they came to you in distress, and you were able to move them forward from one space to the other.
Okay. Um, I'm going to do uh, a simple example, but it just happened recently. So I work with this woman and her daughter and her cat family, and I'm going to use made up names because she hasn't given me
Yeah, yeah.
permission. So her cat Jennifer had some really bad teeth issues, and I had told her that she was in a lot of pain. Finally, got her into the vet, and Jennifer was strangely for a cat was pretty laid back about going to the vet and coming back. There wasn't a lot of like, you obviously don't love me. You just sent me to the hell, and I'll never
Yeah.
speak to you again. But this time she came back and was hiding and was fearful, and they couldn't find her. And she actually got into a part of the house where they didn't know it's an old house. You can think of down
Yeah.
in basements where there's spaces.
Yeah.
Scared the crap out of them. And so we went, and in this case, I asked, what is the origin of Jennifer's terror?
Hmm.
And what I was given was that during the dental work, the anesthesia had not kicked in before they started the surgery because there were like six or
Wow.
seven teeth taken
Yeah.
out. And so what we did, because um, we're living in a place where time is linear, but if you go into the healing world, time is fluid. So we imagined that we went back a few minutes before the surgery started, and we created a
Hmm.
new vision for her, a new memory that could be just as real as what happened. And we imagined that the vet tech looked at Jennifer and said to the vet doctor, "She's not under yet. Wait, wait, wait. Let's give her a little more stuff." And they improved it and waited and gave her more anesthesia, just a little more. And it was a wonderful time, and she felt good, and nothing happened.
Hmm.
No pain. So after we did this, we brought her. We felt like we're back in the now time. I
Yeah.
got a picture from my client sending me the picture had Jennifer like rolling around in kitty treats, so happy, and she was just
Hmm.
being so much fun. So that is just one example of what we do.
Yeah.
We will look at what stress is or what physical things are, and find the origin and start to do whatever healing and communicating is needed. Uh,
Wow. That's powerful because as I mentioned to you in the onset, there's a friend of ours in the Veerbridge Sebastian area that does the animal healing, and I was made aware of it then, and how the combination of the having the pet and the owner work together and be able to bring them peace, if you will, and bring unity to that relationship. And I've seen where a lot of things that people would not consider normal happen that to me look pretty normal, and people got healing and all that type stuff. So those of you who've been listening to this conversation, this is a powerful conversation. You may have your pets, and your pets are trying to talk to you. In some cases, you want to know what's going on with your pet. I have someone, her name is Maribeth, and I'm going to have everything about her in this podcast so you could see. I want you guys to get to her. I have her links and everything else because it's important as we are moving through life and we are living, and it's beginning to become busy. It's beginning to get even heavier. There's a shift within the energetic field within the planet, that there's this heaviness that we feel, and we see that by the way the behaviors of mankind. They are getting darker. They're violent to each other to a level that before we never saw this. And so we're looking at it going, there is a change. If we can notice it, your animals notice it too. And so I want you guys, we're going to provide all the information for you to get in touch with her and spend some time with Maribeth and to have her guide you and walk you through so that you can, within the stressfulness of the days of that is upon us, that you can find peace for yourself and peace for your animals. Maribeth, I want to thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. If you have anything else, share it and let the people know.
One more thing I would like to share. Ken, thank you. I haven't had a conversation like this. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Um, I
You're welcome.
I have worked with a lot of people and pets through the pets transitions, and I did, and so that's a place where I can't not tear up. So I guess I didn't. That's why I didn't tell any stories there because it really touches my
Yeah.
heart. But I did write a book on it, Peace and Passing, Comfort for Love and Humans During the Animal Transitions. And if anybody out there has heard that terrible diagnosis or sees their pet going downhill, this I'm told that this book can be very comforting. Thank you for letting me just say that.
Oh, you're welcome. And those that are listening, again, you've heard me said it a million times that when you purchase a book, it is private time with the author. So if you know that family members or friends that have lost their loved ones and they're grieving, they grieve just like any other person, like it was a family member, or a daughter, a son, anything, and they're in grief. Get them Maribeth's book. I'll provide the link for you guys. Get the book. Offer it as presents to those friends and family members that are in trauma because of this particular passing of their pet and their family member, so that you can help them to see the wisdom that is within those pages so that it can lift them up from that pain and that trauma of grief and move them forward to a place where they may be able to get another pet. But that's also a process by which they have to heal. And so Maribeth's book is designed and is specific to that, dealing with the trauma. So we want to encourage you guys to purchase, get it to friends and family who you know that is in pain because of passing of their family member. Maribeth, thank you again for
Thank you.
coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much, Ken, for this opportunity.
You're welcome.